as well. And a minute in silence. Okay, so welcome all of you once again. And thank you. We have quite a few people today, and you all have abided by the rules of the game. So it's good to start with so many people because it's the first time where we are doing the talk first, followed by the workshop in the second hour. And we have a very special guest with us, Sister Judi Rich, all the way from Calgary. Welcome so much. Thank you for joining. And before I pass it on to her, as always, a few things about her in the introduction and also in the form of a poem. So it's an amazing journey of Sister Judi. She began her spiritual journey in 1992 when she stumbled onto the Brahmakumari Center in her hometown, that's Calgary. And from childhood, there has been a strong interest in the bigger questions of the universe, which have largely been motivated by the feeling that she had somehow missed the day the manual for life had been handed out to her. So it's like really a lot of yearning, which she had right from that age. And she says that through the study of Raj Yoga, she feels that she's rediscovered the source of true self-respect and the inner power. She's still working as a communications designer and a fitness instructor, both. And she feels her calling in life is simply to remain at peace with herself in all that she does. And let me tell you, she's very humble that way. She's mentioned that she's not got any credentials, though she has. Let me tell you, she has been a ballet dancer and had her formal ballet training into young adulthood. And over 40 years, she has been a certified fitness instructor in various modalities, to name a few: athletics, dance, choreography, indoor cycling, and even mind-body as well. And as I told you, she has been, over the past 30 years, a professional graphic designer. And she's also into the Brahmakumaris, studying this Raj Yoga since 30 years, and a BSc in psychology from the Trinity College, University of Toronto. And she's also the recipient 2010 of the YMCA Peace Medal Award. So with this, I would now say a few lines in the form of introduction for her. The first poem for her is, today we have an angel with us called Judi Rich, who shall be sharing her wisdom without any hitch. She inspires us to be away from the Ravan's ditch, because evil Maya is waiting like a horrifying witch, ready to confront always with its mighty itch. Maya Ravan and its progeny are ready to give me a twitch, but with God by my side, there's never any spiritual glitch. We may have some technical glitches, but never spiritual. And today's topic on creativity, you know, her background is a lot of fitness instructor, choreography, dance, graphic designer. So I don't think we can find any other speaker best to do the talk on creativity. So today she shall enlighten us on how to be able to create, develop all our virtues, which are indeed in us innate. Using them will help us to develop our mighty fate. There then remains no chance for each other to have hate, because I have indeed found a unique way to recreate. Spirituality has now become my essential trait. And life has now become sweet as a date, because now with this Supreme, I can very well relate. With this, I would now request Sister Claudia to invite her with flowers. Over to you. Yeah, thank you. Sorry to.
Sorry. Om Shanti, dear sweet angels, Judi. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And Om Shanti to everyone. Good morning from Canada. Good afternoon. Good evening for all of you in India. So it's very sweet to have the sweet sister talking to us. So then I got two nice flowers for you because this represent our love for you. Okay. Okay. So welcome.
So there you go. Thank you so much. And also, yeah, I'm sure, I'm happy to see we have a full house today itself, right from the first minute or so. And that's all because of Sister Judy's magic. So welcome once again, and over to you for the talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Om Shanti, Om Shanti. That was such a creative introduction. I think the talk is done. You revealed everything in the poem. There's nothing to share. But we will try to live up to that beautiful introduction. Thank you from the heart. And thank you to everyone here. I think it's appropriate that a talk on creativity should have a slightly creative schedule, so a little bit different. Thank you for coming earlier. I know it was a shift in schedule. I'm deeply touched that you were open to do so. Great, thanks for that. And we're actually going to start with a little bit of a reflection, if that's okay. Very short, very, very short. So I invite you to be seated comfortably, and always the opportunity to try this with the eyes naturally open. And just taking a moment to bring my mind, my awareness completely into the present, into this moment. Stepping outside of any sense of time, no racing of the mind, completely and fully attentive to this moment, so that this moment changes from being just another ordinary moment into something sacred, that I can use this moment in such a beautiful way, with a peaceful mind, a happy heart. I can use this moment to create something beautiful. Om Shanti. So, creativity. This is such an interesting quality, interesting value for life. And it's quite, I think, an elevated quality because it is one that is attributed to God Himself, God the Creator. This is a very basic way that we understand God to be. God is the Creator. So I think He really likes this quality of creating. And the idea, of course, is that as children of God, each and every human soul, being a child of God, we all also have this capacity to create. So each of us has creativity. And I mention that because I don't know how many times I have heard souls say, and you may even have said this, I am not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. I don't know how to translate that. I have no creativity. And that always is a little bit heartbreaking because it's simply not the truth. As children of God, given our spiritual DNA, we all are extremely creative. So what that tells me when someone says I'm not creative is that we have some concepts about creativity that may not be accurate at most, but also might be very limiting, actually repressing, limiting our creative capacity. So to explore what is creativity, what nurtures that creative capacity, and also, of course, what oppresses it. And even more interesting, what is the point of being creative? What is it for? So what is creativity? So when I look at this word creativity, or someone says, I want to be creative, one of the ideas that's come out is that something unique or novel, or we might even say original, has been developed. So we might see a painting or a choreography, a dance, and say, wow, that was so creative. It was so original, so unique. And we keep using this word, original, original. And that's a big hint about what's behind creativity. Now, when the word is used in a worldly sense, it's that feeling of something that's never been done before. It's completely new. It's so original. No one's done this before. And that actually is not the meaning of the word original. The word original has origin in it. So original actually means that it's connected to the origin. So this is a big hint about creativity, that something that's truly creative, and many destructive things masquerade, or we feel are creative and they're not. Something that's really creative will be connected to the original capacities of the human spirit. That's very deeply involved in this idea of creative, that at that moment, the creator is connected to the origin, to what is original in the soul. And some of the words that we use for original, or those original qualities or values of the soul, might be spiritual or even pure. So connected to something very pure or innocent. So as an example, we have done, and you may have done, workshops with both children, youth, young adults, as well as adults. And these are creative workshops. So they might be asked to go through a reflection and then draw something. And so we've done a specific workshop with both young adults and adults, the exact same workshop, where they're asked to create something. And the results are very interesting, what happens. So simple workshop, the participants are taken through a reflection on a better world. That's it. They just have a simple meditation on their experience of a better world. At the end of the meditation, they're given some paper or markers, and they're asked to draw what they experienced. So language won't have to be involved. They're just going to visually express what they experience. So we did this workshop with high school students. It was in a large gymnasium, and there was a roll of newsprint that had been spread around the entire gymnasium. So it was like mural size because there were so many students. They each were given 3 markers, and the instruction was they would hear the meditation, and afterwards they were seated, they'd be asked to stand, face the newsprint, draw what they had seen, and after a few minutes, they would have to take a couple of steps to the right, leave their creation behind, and start to add to the creation that was to the right of them, to someone else's creation. So this was a very interesting experiment because they were also going to have to let go. So they heard the meditation, and then that moment came where they had to stand up, and there was a pause. And I'm thinking, this could be very embarrassing if they don't do anything. After 1 second, I don't know what else to use as a word, they attacked the paper. They had so much to express. They just were so overflowing with expression, with creativity. Beautiful, beautiful images. And I remember there was one young woman who was clearly very talented in that you could see she drew quite a bit. She drew a beautiful big eye, and the pupil of the eye had this lovely image of a kinder world in the pupil. It was beautiful what she drew. And after a couple of moments, they were asked to step to the right. Someone else was going to draw into what she had done. And most people say, don't touch my creation. Don't do anything to it. She had no problem. She stepped to the side. Someone else started to make markings, add to what she had done. She had no problem. When we do the same activity with adults, this wasn't on newsprint. They had a sheet of paper in front of them. They have the meditation, and then they're asked to express. Nothing happens. They stare at the paper, and they actually ask, I'm not making this up, they say, can I have another piece of paper to practice on in case I make a mistake? You know, just to do some sketches, prepare, plan. Is that okay? Okay. So very different. Of course, we're talking about the purity that's there in the young adults. Young children will dance, sing, draw without prompting. No problem. They don't care what it looks like. They're just expressing from such a pure place where there is zero ego. So this purity, this innocence, that's the cornerstone of creativity. Where there is purity, there will be creativity. And again, creativity is an expression of the original qualities of the soul. So that joy, that happiness, that love, all come flowing out with the purity. So where there's purity, there is automatically creativity because there is automatically a connection to the original qualities of the soul. So some people say, I can't draw, I can't sing, I can't dance. And I remember I only did 1 year of art school, and there's a reason which we'll come to, but maybe if there's time. But I remember in drawing class, the instructor said, many people say they can't draw, as if drawing is something that's in the hand. Or I'm not sure where they think drawing comes from. They said, drawing is actually about how you see. The act of drawing actually has to do with how you see. Just as if you speak to a music teacher, which my mother was, she will tell you singing isn't some sort of magical vocal cords. Singing is connected to how you hear. And movement, it's not about something going on in the body. We all have legs and arms. It's about the heart. So if we look at purity, when there's pure vision, I can draw. And when I hear in a pure way, I can sing. And when there is a clean, pure heart, I can move. So purity is the cornerstone. Where there is purity, there will be creativity. If I rearrange the letters of creativity, I get reactivity. So where there is not purity, there will be reactivity. There's a difference between original and old. Reactivity is where I keep doing the old stuff and I'm stuck. That's the way I always act and think in that situation. So I just keep doing it in that situation. There's nothing new going on. It's just old stuff. That's reactivity, and there's no purity. There's no emerging of those original qualities happening. Creativity is where I don't go into the old, I go into the original. So then there will be creativity, the original quality. So this is a very key aspect of purity. And it's why it can be so universal. Why someone in Norway can create something and someone in Africa can relate to it, because at that original level, as a soul, we all have the same original qualities. So when something's really creative in that pure sense, it will have a universal aspect to it. It will really touch souls cross-temporally, different times, but also different cultures and languages. So we talk about the universal power of music, right? If it's coming from that pure original place, it will have universal impact. So original. Another aspect of connecting to the original, to the qualities of the soul, is eternal. So something that is really creative will also be enduring or timeless. So I look at very often the creators of old, the composers and the painters, and how enduring their artwork is. I can walk down the street and see a completely new bag with a print of Van Gogh's sunflowers on it. I mean, from way long ago, or we sample in modern music, we sample from those great composers of the past, Mozart, etc. Their music's so enduring because they were operating from a more pure place. So creativity sustains itself, it endures. Yes, someone can be very clever and seem to create something that really looks brilliant, and then it falls apart, or it's not even used, not even thinking about it a year later. There's no enduring power to it. Because something that is creative is coming from that pure place, coming from the original qualities of the soul, including eternal, it will have a timeless quality to it. It will endure. There's almost a power to it, that power of purity. So it will endure. So the great masters, so creative in that there was still a lot of purity in the soul. So their works are more enduring. We don't really see that in modern times. It's really here one year, gone the next. And the third aspect of being truly creative is it will be benevolent or uplifting. And this is a very interesting aspect because many people are so-called creating works of art all the time, but they don't necessarily uplift. That is, they don't allow the soul to reconnect with their original qualities. So it's not really creative in the sense, again, creative is original. I, the creator, am connected to my original qualities, and through my creation, others can connect to their original qualities. So it really, as we say, touches the heart or moves us. I remember hearing about, I think he was a priest, doesn't matter which religion, but of a deep religious following path. And suddenly, middle age, he had a calling, a feeling to change his profession. He wanted to go into architecture, which is quite a shift. So he studied architecture, very gifted. And what he was pulled to create as an architect was what he called sacred spaces, very beautiful. I wouldn't call them temples or churches, just sacred spaces in which souls could come and reconnect with themselves at a very deep level. That is the type of architecture he was pulled to do. So he had spent a lot of his own life in that kind of reflection as a priest. And so that is what he put into his creative expression, was what he was able to connect to. He wanted to give that opportunity to others. And this is how he created those spaces. So in essence, what this tells us is the creative act isn't so much about the doing or the outcome even. It's more about the state of the creator. What state am I in as I engage in the expression? If I am connected to those original qualities, if I'm in that pure place, which again means no ego, and if I have those feelings as a natural result of benevolence, all of that will pour into the act of expression, and the outcome will absolutely be creative, not destructive, not reactive, but creative. What this means is that we are engaging in creativity all the time. Not just these formal moments of painting or dancing or singing, but all the time we're asked to be creative. All the time I want to act from that pure, original, timeless, benevolent state. And whatever I think or speak or express, act or see or hear will become creative. Even the law of karma tells me that I'm constantly creating my future. I have to master this act of creativity. It's just a way of life. Every act I perform is creating a consequence of future. So I want to master creativity, be original, be timeless, be egoless, be benevolent as I move through the day. And then it's as if I'm creating a masterpiece on the canvas of my life. we have a lot of very beautiful examples of creative souls in this organization of the Brahma Kumaris. They were such creators of a kinder world. And I was thinking of one of them preparing for this morning, and I have to thank you for the opportunity to speak on this topic because it had me reflecting and churning, and it was so enjoyable. But one of these souls was affectionately known as Dadi Prakashmani. And she had 4 words that she would speak to that for me really capture what creativity looks like practically. And those words were humility, sweetness or sweet words, instrument consciousness, and renewal. Renewal is how we're really talking about creativity. Connecting back to the original is new, but renewal is also one of the most beautiful energies ever. So looking at each of these, I feel in my life, I've had very concrete examples that I didn't know it at the time, that I was exposed to that really helped me to understand creativity isn't about drawing a certain way or singing a certain way or dancing a certain way, but it's a way of life, a way of being that creates something beautiful and sacred. So this idea first of being humble or egoless. So we have a retreat site called Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center. And it offers weekend retreat experiences. And there was one retreat that myself and actually my physical sister, who came from an acting background, so we were asked to develop and offer a retreat that originally was called The Artist Within, because they felt we were conventional examples of artists. And the retreat, because it was called The Artist Within, it attracted souls who identified themselves as artists. So painters and actors and singers, etc., came to this retreat. Our vision was not to offer a retreat that went deeper into those conventional ideas of creativity. Our idea was it be open to anyone who wants to start to reflect on how they are constantly a creator in their own life, how to make my life sacred, a work of art. But the retreat attracted artists originally, and you can tell they all came so deeply attached to their identity of being an artist. And they always talked about, the world does not understand me. The world does not value my art. There was so much ego in the room. And we just thought, this is horrible. This is going nowhere. So we decided to offer a session one night that we never got to do again, but it was so powerful. And we told them, they were actually afraid, because we told them they're going to have a special session that night and just bring a blanket. And they're like, what's going to happen to us? And we had closed the door and put sheets on the door so they couldn't see how we were preparing the room. They couldn't, and they were trying because they were terrified. Actually, their ego was terrified. And what we were doing was creating like a runway strip. So we were putting candles in a row on the floor. And eventually we opened the door. They had brought their blankets. And they came into the room and we had them lie down on the floor. You might know where this is going. Lie down on the floor with their head near the candle. So they lie down on the floor and the candle is just above their head. And then we take their blanket from them and we cover them completely with the blanket from head to toe. And then we had one of the senior yogis, so gifted, do a meditation on becoming what we call bodiless. So asking them to experience themselves free of the image, not an artist, just that light, just a soul, a bodiless soul. That session transformed the retreat. The next day, no one was talking about their art. They just wanted to know how to connect with that experience of being a soul. That's all they cared about. That's all they wanted to create, was a connection with being a soul. We changed the name of the retreat to Creating a Life of Purpose. And the entire retreat was exploring purity. How to create that original state of the soul within the self and connect to God as the one who supports that journey. So it was a completely different concept of creativity, but closer to the true experience of creativity. So essential was to become free of ego. This is why the adults are afraid when they ask them to dance or to sing. It's like, I'm afraid of looking stupid. There's one class that I teach, and it's a dance class. And the studio has glass at the back, so everyone outside can see what's in the studio. And not many souls attend this class, but many stand outside looking like they would like to attend the class, but their ego will not allow them to. They're afraid of looking silly. So the child within wants to, but that ego, so egoless humility liberates creative expression. How to do that? Go deeply into the experience of being a soul. Will liberate the soul from ego. The next aspect, egoless, is the instrument, and this is the one I love the most. I would, if nothing else stays with you, this is important. In ancient times, creative souls would believe in something called the muse, M-U-S-E, the muse. These were from Roman and Greek times. These were gods and goddesses who were protectors of the arts. And what the artists would say is, it's not my idea. I'm just the vessel. They would wait. Their feeling was the muse would deposit an inspiration in their head. They were waiting for the muses to give them an inspiration. So they would say, I'm just the instrument. It's not my idea. It's from the muse. This has been the cornerstone of my own life in terms of creating anything. Is someone will come to me and say, I need this flyer, or I need this printed, or whatever. And I go, okay. And I have zero ideas going on in here. There's nothing going on in here. I'll tell you the one thing that's going on later, but nothing is. And I wait. I wait for an idea to emerge. But it's never the feeling of my idea. I don't feel I could ever come up with this idea of waiting for. I just have to take responsibility to prepare myself as an instrument. And that involves a lot of silence. Requires so much time with silence to be a clean instrument for inspirations to come. When I was at the YMCA, we had different graphic directors at different times. And one year, we had a director who had just come out of communication and design studies. And he wanted to give us a little training session on how to format your work, your flyer, whatever, on a page, what he had learned in school. None of us on the team were formally trained. We just would feel our way. And so he said, in school, what they teach you is you develop a grid. The sheet is separated into measurements called picas. You develop a grid and you place your objects on the page according to the grid. And then the grid goes away and you're left with your creation. So he showed us. He created the grid, put the objects according to certain technical formula on the grid. The science of designing was what he was trying to show us. And at the end, he took the grid away and the flyer was there. And my colleague leaned over to me and I leaned over to her and I said, doesn't it feel like that object needs to move just 1 millimeter to the right, just a smidge to the right? And she said, yes, I feel that. And we said, we feel that needs, he says, no, the grid says it goes there. You cannot move it a millimeter. I said, no, but it doesn't feel right. It needs to go one. He says, no, the grid. So it was a battle between science and silence. Silence, this feeling, was saying, that doesn't feel harmonious. It needs to move just a little so there's harmony on the page because of the silence, the feeling of silence. But science said, no, it needs to go here. So to be honest, all this time with meditation only keeps enhancing creativity. It's spending 95% of the time preparing just through silence, and then 5% it will just flow. So my job as an instrument is to keep that silence very vibrant inside, so the inspirations can come into the space. That's the key. That to me is the main thing, that instrument consciousness. For us, of course, we don't say the muses, but divine inspiration is what we are opening to. But it requires being very egoless and silent and this deep love of just creating a peaceful space inside. This is what a creator, an inventor, an innovator does, so that inspirations can come. The next piece, and I know we might run out of time, I'll speed up. I do want to just share this one story because it was so touching to me, of being very sweet or uplifting towards others. So when I was in dance school, I had a jazz teacher named Eve, which is ironic because, of course, Eve is connected to the creation story, Adam and Eve. But her name was Eve. She was very mature. We didn't realize she was only a few years older than us, but she was so mature and so gifted as a choreographer. I've never experienced another choreographer like Eve, so gifted. She always put us in front. We rarely saw her dance. It was always about us, us, us. And when she choreographed, I loved to just watch her work because it was so unique. So one year she was going to choreograph a solo dance routine for me. And usually what happens is the music's picked, the choreographer spends time ahead, listening over and over to the music and starting to prepare a dance. That's usually how it works, but not with Eve. She didn't even know what music I was going to use. She came in and said, here's a couple of songs I found. You pick which one you like. So she didn't know which one I would choose, so nothing was prepared. I said, I like this song. She said, okay, great. So this is back in the Stone Age. It was an LP record. So she put the LP record on the turntable and she placed the needle and then the magic. This is how Eve choreographed. She'd listen to maybe 4 bars of 8. So she'd be listening to the music and it was really like, and then she'd say, okay, here's what you're going to do. She hadn't moved other than these weird, subtle movements with her head. It literally emerged full blown in her head. And then she'd show, and it was always, always unique. She put things together in such a unique way, very pure. And it was always magical. But the time that really touched me, I had a ballet performance competition. The souls I was competing against were far more gifted than I was, far more. It had been put on point, which I was disastrous at. So I was probably looking depressed as I performed this. And it was all just going downhill quickly. And then I looked up for some reason at the balcony. And Eve was up there all alone, watching me. It was as if she could feel what I, the soul, was going through. There was just a moment, but it imprinted deeply. This thing we call drishti. She looked at me deeply. I felt so understood. Her drishti was so sweet and so uplifting. It transformed me in that moment. It created something different in me. I kept dancing. There's the adjudication at the end. And they said, Judi, you have first place, which was ridiculous because I was certainly not worthy of that in terms of technique. The others were far stronger on point, far more brilliant. But something had happened in that moment, that deep, deep sweetness and upliftment and understanding, authenticity created something in me. This is a true creator. They're not creating for their own recognition. They're creating in order to empower others. So can you imagine every act of your day when you think and speak and move and see is somehow uplifting those around you? That's creativity. I'm going to end by saying this idea of the muse has 2 meanings. One is these gods and goddesses who are patrons of the arts, but there's another meaning for muse. Artists would talk about how their muse inspired them. It might be a model, it might be someone important in their life, but someone else who would inspire their way of being, inspired how they would create. For me, my muse is God. Constantly, I feel that being is so incredibly beautiful. Such a beautiful being. So whenever I'm asked to create something, I'm always saying, does this come in any way close to the beauty of God? That being is my inspiration, my muse. I'm frustrated because I'm finding it's impossible in any physical way to capture the beauty of God. That beauty is completely incorporeal. And yet I'm always striving, always inspired. Does it capture that beauty, that sweetness, that grace, that compassion, that purity of that being, that harmony, that benevolence? Is it in whatever is being produced? Even cooking a meal, does it match the beauty of God? So to be a muse, to be an instrument, but also to have that one as the guiding force, that beauty, inspiring the quality of what I am doing. So perhaps now we'll go into a reflection together in the little time we have left, if that's okay. Is that okay? All right. You are all incredibly creative beings. So let's set up our little studio inside, shall we? In one thought, I turn inwards. I used to think that creativity happened in facilities outside, a dance studio or an artist studio or a musical studio. But actually, creativity happens in the studio inside. And that's what I enter now. Moving away from my usual worldly thoughts, the racing of the mind from one timeline to another. I let that all fade into the background and move myself, my attention, my heart into a very sacred place inside. My own inner studio of creation. The lines on the walls of this space are created with so much care. The walls are made of peace, serenity, and deep self-respect. It's a very pure space where I reconnect with my authentic self. I, the soul, a wonderful being packed with so many qualities, so much beauty, concentrated within the wonder of me, the soul. And my Father, the Supreme Soul, is a master, a creative master, the one who deeply understands the art of creating a beautiful life. I am a child of that one. I come from the same lineage. I have that art too. And I experiment in my inner studio. I start with the self. Very pure thoughts for the self. deep trust in myself, respect and value for myself, a lot of confidence in myself, no fear. As a soul, I am unique, one of a kind, and I have something very special to offer to the world that only I can offer, my own unique creative contribution. I don't compare myself to others or compete. I would miss the opportunity to contribute what I alone have to share. As a creator, I honor my specialities, my God-given gifts. I let them color every thought, every word, every movement, how I see and hear. I follow in my Father's footsteps. He is such a master of creating a beautiful life. I make my life into such a masterpiece by being at peace with myself and honoring my specialities. I'm able to honor the creative contribution of others. So together, we create something far more powerful than we would alone. From my own creative studio, I become part of a creative team, harmonizing with others to create a more beautiful world. Om Shanti.
Well, amazing. What to say? Words fall short. A beautiful way of expressing creativity. And I'm very surprised, rather, the four things which you used of the Adi Prakash Mani. In Hindi, we call it Nimit, Nirmanchit, and Nirmalvani, but you've covered that beautifully in English. So thanks for these sharings and thanks for your time. I know you want to go to another session next few minutes. So I would request Dr. Ashok Mehta to please propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Mehta.
Om Shanti. Judi, it was a pleasure to listen to your creative words on creativity. You are obviously, I've never had an opportunity of interacting with you personally, but from what I've heard about you and what I've heard from you, both show your creativity is a God-given, is given by Baba. And you are a special soul, and we are very thankful for you to participate in this values program, Values in Life. I think we'll always remember you for this beautiful presentation. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Om Shanti.
Shanti, thank you. And I would request all the other participants to please hang on, be around here. We have the workshop. Don't forget not to leave. And thank you. See you, Sister Judi, again for another session soon.
We can take a picture. Sister Judi, that's our tradition that we take a picture, so we won't miss that. Take picture with you. I'm sure everybody loves that. So I request everyone to please open your video. Okay? And I won't miss anybody this time. I know last time some people said, hey, I'm not there. So sure to take all of you in. See, you have just 2 more seconds because people are still opening the video. That's how I miss you when the final one comes. So now, this is the final. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Judi. It was very sweet.
Om Shanti. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for adjusting. Thank you to everyone for joining. And thank you to translators. I always appreciate, I think you have to get creative with your translation sometimes. But thank you from the heart. Om Shanti.